The moment the camera became portable, a new world opened for the photographer. Distinct from the studio environment, able to capture the world outside, in essence, street photography was born. Photographers began to document society, capture ironies, poke fun, and depict contrasts through the subjective nature of photography. The collective attention deficit disorder, demonstrated by 10-word tweets, irrelevant Facebook status updates, and 5-second news bites from corporate news stations, has never been more at play. Reality is presented to us from the hand of a producer who keeps a sponsor's interests at the forefront. This is the antithesis of street photography. Life is not scripted. Life does not exist only on a flat panel LCD, nor in a weekly tabloid. Life is right outside your front door, the domain of the street photographer. Like a walking sleep, most, when they leave their home, whether in a sprawling metropolis, the city center, or a seemingly bucolic suburb, are blind to life's moments happening around them. Each person you pass on your way to the grocery store, in a restaurant, or on the morning train is experiencing moments colored by their judgments, desires, and expectations. The street photographer, intuitively aware of our universal experience, seeks to capture the quiet and not so quiet subtexts. Whatever their motivation, photographers strive to capture the human condition as they see it. Chris Weeks, an editorial photographer from Los Angeles, shoots street as an adjunct to his professional life.
When I work, I have to pay attention to shot lists. What is the best chance of getting published, getting through traffic and dealing with egos, demands, and a continual erosion of copyright? It feels so insular and confining. That world is not reality, no matter how many of the players act like they're curing cancer. Going for a simple walk with no agenda except to walk and look and see is what I do to relax. I look at it as my reward. If we all saw the world as Audrey Tautu's character Anomaly, I think we'd be better off. I know we'd make better photos. When I'm just walking in the street or sitting in a cafe, I'm watching and observing, forgetting what's going on with me. Sometimes I see photographs everywhere and come home with a few rolls or gigabytes. Other times I've got some nice exercise and peace. Street photography is like life. You never know what it's going to throw at you or what you're going to get.
A photographer who shoots the human condition from passion, separate from those who hope to ride the wave of a fad on Flickr, sees photographs everywhere and is compelled to make photographs from a place deep within themselves, as one who concerns himself with the fruit and not the flower. Severin Koller, an editorial photographer from Vienna, Austria, makes these kinds of photographs for many reasons.
I think I started to forget things, and the moment I realized when I take a picture of something, it helps me not to forget about it. I started to shoot a lot. I started to shoot people, and because of scenes, I just need to save somewhere. And if you have a photo, you can also share it as well. So that's a good thing about it. You can just share what's happening in your world, what's happening around you. So I think everybody who takes street pictures has their own view of it. So any scene will be captured differently.
Street photographers run the gamut. Chris Weeks and Severin Koller shoot editorial. Others shoot Cape Cod landscapes. advertising, or travel. But fine art photographers like Frank Jackson of Los Angeles also love making these types of photographs.
What makes a good street photographer is someone that will go out with a camera and with a project in mind sometimes. Sometimes you're looking for specific things. But what really makes a good street photographer is someone that doesn't let the really cool things get away. You know, your eyes are open and you catch those moments. Someone asked me how I work, and I said basically sometimes I happen to photography and sometimes photography happens to me. And that means sometimes they find you or sometimes you find them. It's the same thing. Other than that, the whole point is you can go out without anything specific in mind, and you should always make an effort to do that. It keeps you sharp, and you learn every time you go out.
Photographers who shoot street have their own styles for making these types of photos. They have their own motivations. Tantamount to their success in shooting street, besides instantly deciding upon many compositions and sometimes tricky exposures, is being as anonymous as possible. Even Henri Cartier-Bresson thought that being the invisible man was perhaps the greatest aspiration of a street photographer. In an interview, he said, "I might be a cab driver, an anonymous someone to whom people reveal their inner selves. Though remaining faceless to his passengers, the driver can see their faces in the mirror. The photographer should be like that, unobtrusive, detached, yet close to people." The street photographer should think more like an agent of espionage, observing and documenting, but doing so unseen. While many argue on internet forums about which photographic machine is the best for street photography, anyone who uses a rangefinder knows what Monsieur Cartier-Bresson was talking about in their heart. A lumbering SLR can rarely escape the eye of a subject. Some will also say that shooting a rangefinder is old school and only used to pay homage to those who created the genre in the 1930s.
Back in '06, I wrote a document about purism in street photography. It was downloaded a lot of times, and of the comments I got, and there were a lot of comments, but of the negative ones, people ask why I only shoot a rangefinder, and I ask each one of them if they've ever used a rangefinder, and not one of them said yes. I mean, I get emails every week about why I was so adamant about using a rangefinder doing street. And what's interesting is a lot of people thanked me for being so adamant because they ended up buying a rangefinder and using it and discovering exactly how amazing it is. And I don't think they'll ever go back. It's also interesting to me that other negative comments I got were related to why I dismissed digital altogether. Well, at the time, the only full frame option was film, and I just preferred to shoot film. And it's funny because I asked each one of those people if they use film or have ever used film, and just like with the rangefinders, none of them have used film. So back in '06, digital really wasn't an option for me because I wanted to shoot full frame, and the only full frame was film. And now I have the ability to shoot full frame because Leica came out with an M9 full frame digital rangefinder, and I don't know, it's a strong competitor for me. And now, having used one for a while, I don't think that film is the only medium for street shooting. I can shoot one-to-one, and that's what I've always wanted. And what's so cool to me now is that I can use a rangefinder body to replace my heavier Canon body, and it melds into my workflow even for work. I mean, I'm not gonna ever take conversely, I'm never gonna take a 1DS Mark III out and shoot street with it, but now I can have a rangefinder and it can complement my other gear, and you know, that's amazing to me. When I'm shooting street, there's no other camera that allows me to be as anonymous and inconspicuous as a rangefinder. And what's really cool is that when I do, say, a gallery opening, and there's lots of beautiful light and lots of the world's most recognizable faces, it's a beautiful thing now that I can just take those anonymous photos and those discreet photos with a very silent camera and pull out the card, put it in the computer, and it goes alongside with my workflow from the Canon. It amazes me. I'm very happy about it. The clients enjoy seeing the non-magazine, non-pose stuff, and I have to admit that I really enjoy shooting that the most, and I can shoot, like I said, about a gallery opening or something else that's fancy with lots of lights. I can shoot it just like I would shoot street. Seriously, anybody that wants to get better shooting street, not only with like the power of observation, but I think that if you just shoot a rangefinder, you'll see things completely differently because it's like a little window to the world, and I almost guarantee your street photography will get better.
The first time I had a rangefinder in my hands, I was 18 and just started to shoot analog. A befriended photographer who was in the business for his whole life borrowed me his Leica M6 with a 35 Summicron for a couple of weeks. I couldn't give it back anymore, it was the perfect tool, so I just bought it. I choose the rangefinder because it has no mirror, which is more silent and lets me shoot slower shutter speeds without blurring the shot. The focusing system is quick and accurate, and I cover my face much less than with an SLR, which is important for the interaction with the subject I shoot. There is no zoom, all you can shoot with it happens right in front of your eyes. When I leave the house, I usually take my Leica with me. For me it's the perfect camera for capturing moments and people the way I see them. It's made to be discreet, but is still capable of producing the highest quality photos for 35mm film.
Whether it's mystique or homage, rangefinders have held up to the test of time. Besides electronic integration and full frameability, rangefinders have remained largely unchanged for 40 years. Yet according to Stephen Gandy, the owner of CameraQuest.com and RangefinderForum.com, demand for the cameras is strong with existing users and new users alike.
I think people are excited about rangefinders because fundamentally it's a different way of seeing things. So many photographers are used to the SLR way of shooting. You look through a box, you look on a screen, the screen changes, and it focuses, but it also changes the way that you're looking at your subject. Fundamentally, there's a different encounter. With rangefinders, what's happening is that you're looking basically straight on in a window to the world. It's like you're seeing it through a window pane, more or less, and it's always in focus. It sees like your eyes see. Rangefinder photography is fundamentally simpler to operate, so the photographer is more engaged to the subject and is more involved in the subject, both visually and also mentally, because they're not constantly doing the ins and out of what is the camera doing, because you know what the camera's doing. It's so much easier to control. Another technical aspect is that everything else being equal, it's simply easier to design the best optically rangefinder lenses than it is for an SLR. It has to do with the laws of optics. I don't understand it. Artistic people like to do things differently. They don't like to follow the crowd. If everybody else is shooting a Nikon or a Canon, of course they have to shoot something else. Or if everybody else is shooting an SLR, well then how can I do something better than they're doing? Just to be different. rangefinder people that are really serious about it tend to be more nonconformist, in my opinion, than SLR people. It's not Leica by itself doing it. Of course, they make fine products. They're doing it because of love of rangefinder photography by the people who love this style of photography and the images that it produces.
Rangefinders will not make aesthetically better photographs. However, they will, if used properly, make a better photographer.